Moms who know do less so they can focus on what matters most, taking care of themselves, their families, and living their God-given purpose. Moms who know are simplifying motherhood and focusing on the little things they can do that grow to have a huge impact. You are connecting with your family, your true self, and your purpose. You are a mom who knows. Today's episode with Stephannie Weikert is all about stress, and I want to tell you what happened when we sat down to record. So I sat down to record, and Stephannie wasn't here. She was running a little bit late, and I heard the doorbell ring, and my husband texted me. He was in the home office in a meeting, presenting at a meeting, and he said, "Can you go and see what the neighbor needs?" She was at the door, frantic. I guess Carter got out of his room. Well, I had put our 3-year-old Carter down for a nap, and without me knowing, he had opened the window, climbed out the window, and was running around the block. So I went and got him. I brought him back, put him back to bed. I mean, had a talking to with my neighbor about how dangerous that was. And I said, "Please don't call CPS." I put him to bed and he climbed out the window. And it was a little bit stressful. I came back. Stephannie was ready to record, but she told me the reason she had been late was she had had a moment and she had some expired chia seeds, so she put them down the drain. Well, if you know anything about chia seeds, when chia seeds get wet, they expand. So don't put those down the garbage disposal. Stephannie learned that the hard way, and now she's got a sink clogged full of chia seeds. And so we both had a little stressful moment before we sat down to record this call about stress. The things that we are going to talk about today help with all kinds of stressful moments, and I know that we all have those quite often as moms. One stressful moment you may be able to relate with is going to sneeze or run or just do some normal thing and all of a sudden having a little bit of leakage or pee when you least expect it. And this is something that can be totally preventable through reconnecting with your core. Another thing that you might find happening that might be stressful for you is still looking like you're pregnant 5 years after having your baby. Sometimes after pregnancy, the muscles don't connect together again like they used to in something called diastasis recti. And that is why today's episode is sponsored by Mutu System. Mutu really helps women to reconnect with their core. And so if you have any of these issues, if you feel like your pelvic floor and your core just could really be in better shape, go and check them out. You can go to bit.ly/MooToMama, bit.ly/MooToMama. Thank you for being a sponsor of the show. And thanks to everyone who goes and checks those out. That really helps for me to, put the show on and to bring you guys awesome guests and great content like we have today. Hello and welcome to the Moms Who Know podcast. I'm your host, Chanel Nielsen, and I'm joined today by Stephannie Weikert. Stephannie, thanks so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Well, today we are going to get into something that all moms need a little bit of fresh perspective on, and that is the topic of stress. We all feel it. We all know it intimately. And Stephannie is a perfect person to teach us about it. She is a certified yoga therapist and creator of the program Make Peace with Stress. And she herself has overcome some stress-related anxiety, and she teaches moms to change their relationship with stress. And I really love kind of the way we're going here and the idea. And I think as we get into this, you guys will see kind of how some simple things that you can do are going to make a huge difference. So Stephannie, let's just jump right in. I want to talk a little bit to begin about noticing our struggles, noticing the things that stress us out. How do we notice them and why is that important?
Yeah, great question. So noticing struggling, noticing resistance, noticing our stress is really important because these moments always indicate an opportunity to practice changing the way you relate to challenging times, to, demanding situations. And how you do it is to simply pay attention to your inner experience, right? We tend to, it sounds so simple, and it is, but we tend to get caught up in the pattern of being frustrated or overwhelmed or, getting angry or whatever it is, not sleeping, being hyper reactive, distracting ourselves. But when we start to recognize that those experiences are actually amazing opportunities for learning about ourselves and for growth, then we can start to pay attention to them as instead of as something to be avoided or unwelcome. We can start to pay attention to these moments when we ourselves are not feeling in harmony with what's happening, that we can start to pay attention to those moments as opportunities, as a gift, as a, oh, cool, here's something I can work with right now. I have a great example. I have a client who really struggled with traffic, and she drove to and from work every day at rush hour at a time when there was always traffic, and she knew how long it would take her. Typically, she always left enough time for herself. It was very much part of her routine. But despite all of this, she still would get, frustrated and, just anxious and impatient, even though it happened every day for literally decades. And when she recognized that identifying that, those experiences every single day to and from work as an opportunity to change the way she related to something that happened to her every day, twice a day, she really shifted the way she used that time. And it became a time, instead of being frustrated and annoyed and impatient and all of that, it became a time that she really cherished. She started listening to podcasts like this one, and she really started not only not being frustrated and annoyed and impatient and stressed out over the traffic that she dealt with every day, but actually totally enjoying her commute. And she would tell me about times that she would get to work or get home and like sit in the car even for another few minutes to finish up whatever she was listening to. And that working with that one little thing that was a daily stressor that seemed fairly inconsequential really decreased her stress overall in her life. It just really shifted the way that she, showed up for things that, may be irritating or may be frustrating.
Yeah, well, I think it's so interesting, this whole idea of looking at your stress as an opportunity. I don't think that most of us are doing that. I feel
Yeah.
when I feel stressed, I'm not like, oh, lucky me. I get to have this teaching moment, this learning opportunity. It's like, oh, get me out of this right now. Right. I
Yeah.
mean, most of
Yep.
us just want to get through it, just be done. Just, it's more than I can take.
Yeah, yeah. Well, when you think about the stress response, the physiological, what happens in our bodies when we feel challenged, when we feel threatened, it's purposeful, right? Our bodies are designed to work for us in a moment where we need to take action, right? So, at one point in our, history as a human being, it may have been, a survival mechanism. And now, thankfully, it's not for most of us a survival mechanism, but it doesn't matter because it still has the same, our bodies are still experiencing the same rush of adrenaline, muscle tension, hyper alertness, where all the sounds and lights and all the things are so intense, but it's all of that that's happening is very purposeful. And if we don't use that energy, if we don't use that to our advantage in that moment, it just sort of is almost like a motor that just runs and runs and runs and doesn't move us forward. It just like spinning our wheels, which ultimately can damage those systems in our bodies. It compromises our immune system, our digestive system, and can be really harmful. But when you think about stress and the stress response as a mechanism that's there to help you survive and actually thrive, fight or flight, right? Then and you start to use that energy in that way, then it becomes something that's beneficial.
Yeah. Okay. That's such a good way to think of it. I love that analogy of that it's like a motor that's just running, 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 but never going anywhere. I mean, most of us can see, the futility of that. You don't want your motor to just sit there and run, but never move forward, never have anything to show for that. And I think that resonates with me so much because I feel that in those stressful moments that you just feel
Yes.
this like you want to do something, like you want to, I guess, move through it, but you just feel very stuck in that stressful
Yes.
time. And I
Yes.
think yeah, I think part of that comes because we don't like that feeling of stress. And so we feel like, okay, I don't like this. I want out of this. I want out of this. Tell us how we can kind of shift that and find the opportunity in the stressful moments instead of the rush to get through it.
Yeah, that's a great question. And it really boils down to a simple choice that we always have. We can stay stuck in that pattern of stressing and not liking it or wanting to get out of it, but without sort of dealing with it, without sort of addressing the issue. And so therefore it's going to come back again, and that cycle is going to repeat and really get stronger. Or so we can either stay stuck, or we can really take charge of our attitude about what's going on and start to, I mean, you be a scientist in some ways. I love the idea of a scientist mindset. So I'm feeling this tension, I'm feeling this challenge, I'm, frustrated, I'm overwhelmed, and I can, stay in that pattern of just being and not really being open to it. Or I can say, okay, what's here for me? What can I do in this moment to feel better, to change? What's at the heart of this negativity, of this resistance? And one of the ways that I love to teach it that's so simple is the idea of shifting, oh no, or any sort of that type of reaction. Oh no, what am I going to do? Oh no, why is this happening? To okay. So okay, what am I going to do? Okay, why is this happening? Right? It's a simple but profound shift that really takes you out of catastrophizing and into a sense of curiosity and openness. And when this becomes your routine practice, it changes the way you respond to demanding situations in a way that increases problem solving skills, fulfillment, and even happiness. Because again, that stress response is happening because there's something that's threatening your survival. And that may sound dramatic, but it may be that, there's something you're going through an experience and you don't like it. And what's air quotes here, threatening your survival is simply your attitude about it or being stuck in continual resistance. And maybe, obviously, in that moment, it's not a direct threat to your survival, but just like we talked about before, if you're not using the energy of your stress response to move forward, you're just perpetuating it. And so just like spinning your wheels and staying stuck in the mud, your motor eventually just runs out. It overheats. It says, okay, this is not moving us forward. I'm done. And that's part of why we get, sick and have health issues, because in some ways that's our body's way of saying, you've got to slow down, you got to stop here, you got to take stock here.
Well, so let me ask you this. When we're talking about this, is it as simple as like this idea of oh no to okay? Or in the example you shared earlier about the woman who was stressed in traffic, is it as simple as just changing your attitude? Like, what else is happening here for this woman who's so stressed out to be in traffic and it just like is ruining her day and all these things? Is it just as simple as saying, wait, I can use this time to listen to a podcast? Or is there something else going on that happens, behind the scenes internally that allows that shift to happen?
Yeah, it's a great question. And really in that case, and a lot of the scenarios and cases that for many of us that struggle with this kind of chronic stressing, it's a habit. It is quite literally just a bad habit. And when you think about it that way, in some ways, you can sort of let yourself off the hook. It's not necessarily your fault in that a habit is something that's just been repeated enough that it becomes automatic. And there's beneficial habits, right? There's things that we want to do sort of automatically without questioning. I often think of brushing your teeth, right? Most of us have the habit of brushing our teeth every day, hopefully a couple times a day, and we don't stand in front of the sink in the morning and think, maybe I won't bother with this today, right? We just do it without thinking. And stressing and resisting and being highly reactive, sort of in that negative light, can very easily become a pattern that is just repeated and becomes automatic. So part of the changing of attitude, part of that sense of taking charge is of yourself and of the way you're reacting to things or thinking about things or even your beliefs, is just a sense of recognizing that you can stop yourself for a moment and question things, and also that it's a practice. Just like any habit that you're trying to build, you don't decide, oh, I'm gonna do XYZ, and then all of the sudden be able to do XYZ, as much as you want perfectly every day. You just keep trying, and you just keep coming back to that sense of recognizing when you're stressing, when you're resisting, when you're struggling, and saying, okay, I can continue to do this, or I can try something different. That scientist mindset is another, that's another good example of like, what happens if and because we want to do things that feel good, because we are, the type, we are very, sort of habitual type of species. When we start to change, when we start to get a sense of, oh, this is actually better if I take a deep breath before responding to the situation, or take a moment to recognize, wait a minute, I can be intentional about the way I show up here, then it feels better. We feel more in charge of ourselves. And it's not perfect per se, but it is something that when we start to do it and say, oh, this is a little better, and then we just keep going back to trying that. And again, it's not perfect. It's not 100% of the time. I've been doing this for 20 plus years, and I still have moments where I'm like, and then like, oh wait, stop, let's start that again. And in fact, I say that all the time to my family, and I'm like, can I have a do-over there? But when you do that, when you pause and do over, it's like retraining yourself to get out of that pattern that you're stuck in, and to forge a new way.
Yeah. And that's what I'm hearing here. I think a powerful thing, as you've talked about how this is a habit, a lot of times our stress is a habit. Well,
Yes.
as we create new habits, as you notice, okay, when I start to, put on a podcast when I get in the car and I start to enjoy that, it then is forming a positive habit loop because we're like, oh,
That's right.
I actually enjoyed my commute today and I like
Yes.
that. And now I feel better about that for tomorrow. And we start to, when the reward is inherent in the thing that we're doing, then we want to repeat it. Like,
That's
oh, that was actually good. I think I'll do
Yes.
that again.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
exactly right. That's exactly right. And that's part of what can make it easier. The hardest part often is making, starting that initial shift. But then once we start to retrain ourselves to take things that are, were previously challenging and, sources of stress, so to speak, to turning those into something that is, very satisfying or nurturing, or even just showing up a different way, and it feels good. It makes it easier, just as you mentioned, to go back and to keep going, to keep trying, to keep working on that shift.
Yes, definitely. Now, one of the things that I hear from moms a lot is this idea of just being overwhelmed. There are so many things coming at you all the time as a mom, and your kids need you so often, and the house gets dirty over and over, and the dishes get dirty, and there's always a meal to make, and it's just relentless, right?
Yeah.
And so I would love to hear your thoughts on how we can feel less stressed, even if nothing in that scenario changes, because sometimes it's just not going to.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. It's not going to at all, in a lot of ways. But, just like anything in life, the thing that you do have control over in terms of changing is yourself. And so it's really, and also when we make those inner shifts, there is a there is a change in the way things are outside of us. A great teacher, Wayne Dyer, says, "When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change." And so, in the case of much of your audience, overwhelmed moms with all the things, I totally get it. I have teenagers, I am a business owner, I run a household. It's a lot. It's a lot. And I think that an important sort of shift is that we only can do what we can do at any given moment. And that by dividing our attention, we actually tend to make things harder. There's something in productivity called, I can't think of the name of it right now, but it's the idea that when you switch tasks, you actually lose time. When you go from one thing or the other and then go back, you lose time. I can't think of the name of it right now, but
Yeah. Is it
but the,
context switching? Is
that's
that?
exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. Context switching. Right. And so as a parent, as a mother that's trying to manage all the things, if we're trying to do 27 things at once, or even 3 things at once, we're actually making it harder on ourselves because we're draining our energy. We're losing energy in the switch. So even if it's only 3 minutes to, let's say, tie a shoe or wipe a snotty nose, or change a diaper, or something, address a need for a child, and then a 5 minute looking up a recipe and making a list of what you need for the grocery store, and figuring out the next thing. When you're in each of those moments, really giving yourself the gift of being fully present for that, versus tying the shoe and trying to think about the recipe and trying to think about the other thing, or plan for the next thing. Like, that is emotionally, mentally, physically draining, because we're just not meant to disperse our energy that way. So when you're tying the shoe, tie the shoe. Be there for the shoe tying, it'll take less time and you won't feel so drained after. When you're working on figuring out what's for dinner, let yourself figure out what's for dinner. And if something else is trying to get your attention, okay, acknowledge that that's trying to get my attention, but I need 1 more minute for this. So just recognizing the power of presence and really being present for each of the tasks that you're trying to accomplish in any given moment, I think is a really important key to sort of transcending overwhelm, or at least making it more manageable, because there's a lot to do and it can be overwhelming, but we don't need to add to that by dispersing our energy all the time trying to do all the things at once. Does that make sense?
Oh, totally. And you know what I'm thinking as you're saying this? I'm thinking about my husband, and I think men do this a lot better than women in
Yeah.
general, just from what
Yep.
I've seen. That like when a man is sweeping the floor, he's sweeping the floor. When he's sitting down and reading the news, he's reading the news. When I'm sweeping the floor, I'm thinking, okay, when I'm done sweeping the floor, I've got to do this. And okay, I better thaw the chicken for dinner tonight. And then, oh, I need to check this. And 20,000 things are going through my
Yep.
head where like, just do the thing, just do
Yeah.
what you're doing. And
Yes.
it's so amazing. And it's interesting too, just on the men and women thing, because sometimes it's easy to get after our husbands and be like, hey, why didn't you think of this? Well, because he was thinking of the one thing he was doing. And that
Right.
is, sometimes we might make fun of men for that, but it's something we can learn and a powerful lesson that we can take from our husbands.
Yeah, absolutely. And, there's this idea that just because we can doesn't mean we should, right? Just because as
Yeah.
women, we can multitask. And again, I'm using air quotes here because yes, you sort of can, but really you don't do any of it well. You don't do any of it with 100% of your attention when you're dividing yourself. So just because we can do that doesn't mean we should. And I think that the important takeaway to that is that when you're trying to do multiple things at once, there's an exponential drain of your energy, right? The drain is greater than the sum, and you're not showing up for either thing very well. You're not figuring out, the next thing while you're sweeping, and you're probably not doing the greatest job sweeping while you're trying to figure out the next thing. In Make Peace with Stress, we call this self-imposed stress, right? Because it's something that we are doing to ourselves within ourselves. And one of the great gifts of shifting out of this is that when you're needing to be present for your child, you're truly present, and they know that when you need to be present for figuring out dinner, you're truly present, and it can become something that shifts from being this like draining, negative, like I have to do type of task to, oh, I get to do this. And actually, you start to recognize like, I'm doing this because I care about my family and feeding them. And this is part of my way of loving them and nurturing them. And it becomes something that can be quite satisfying when you let yourself be fully present and to experience yourself fully in those moments.
I agree. And I love that so much because it brings purpose and meaning to the little things that we do. So I
Yeah.
love all these thoughts really that you've shared with us. Now, I want to ask you, we've talked a lot about changing the way that we think about stress today. So, how will doing that simplify our motherhood?
So the reason that it really simplifies motherhood is that when we shift the way that we think about or look at that inner experience, then instead of being draining sources of negativity, it shifts into like, oh, this is my inner compass trying to show me something. And so shifting this one thing can really transform your whole life.
Yes, that is powerful stuff. I think that when we can really live into that, that makes a huge difference. Now, where can people find you and get more information about the work that you do?
Makepeacewithstress.com is the best place to go because I have a stress type quiz.
Cool. Okay. Well, we will link to that. Now, to finish off, I want to ask you what one little thing of all the things that we've gone over and talked about today, what one little thing do you hope that people take action on today because of what they've heard?
I think the most important thing is that stress is not something to manage or to reduce. It's the most important message that your body and your mind and your heart are sending about what is out of alignment with what you really want for yourself and your family.
Oh, I love it. I think that is powerful, powerful stuff. Stephanie, thank you so much for being with us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yes. And thank you, everyone, for listening to Moms Who Know. Wasn't that good? We learned a lot today about shifting our mindset and about looking at stress in a totally different way. But here's the thing, you don't have to do everything that you heard today. Keep it simple. Just doing a little bit counts. So, what matters is that you take action and that you do something. So, my question for you is what one little thing are you going to take action on today? It might be as simple as thinking about something differently. Screenshot today's episode and tag me on Instagram with the one little thing that you are going to do. I love hearing from you. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time on Moms Who Know.